So friends, I'm going to share with you some aspects related to extended producer responsibility and its impact on the market in general, and also cement and what needs to be done, etc., etc. EPR is a new concept, and especially so for the cement industry, because this concept is has always been thought to be not relevant for cement, but now there is a lot of clarity coming that cement also is a part stakeholder of the EPR process. So what happens in EPR is, you are taking a certain product. It could be packaging or a product, and then you use that. After its use, it is no longer having any appropriate consideration in your operations. So therefore you want to discard it, so you throw it somewhere, and then the ULBs or waste pickers or somebody will come and pick it up. And then if EPR is not there, then this will lie remaining in the environment, causing damage to the environment. So it has to go for some scientific, sustainable process of management. And if that has to happen, then that process has to have an authority permission that this is the right process of doing that. And then once having done the treatment or management of that particular waste stream, a certificate gets issued, and this certificate goes to the agency who actually had produced that product or that particular packaging. And then that agency submits that to the Central Pollution Control Board against an obligation which Central Pollution Control Board has given to it. So that's in short the entire flow process of EPR, but we'll get into these in a little bit more details. So if you look at the definition of EPR, it's basically extended producer responsibility. It's a policy approach under which producers are given a significant responsibility, which could be financial or physical, for the treatment, management, and disposal of the product which has lost its application or use to you. And I'm calling that as after use product. So EPR is a process by which these products have to get properly managed, and therefore it's a policy framework. In India, we have been this particular EPR has been included in the plastic waste management rules and e-waste management rules. In plastic waste management rules, the definition has been given and the intent has been given. Now there's a EPR framework which is likely to get notified, and based on that notification, the stakeholders related to EPR will have to comply. So that's the status of EPR in our country. Why EPR is required? Well, it's a strategy to reach an objective of reducing environmental impact. So, because otherwise what happens, let's say you take a multi-layered packaging or a chocolate cover, and then while you are going, you throw it into the environment. It just remains there. It keeps on accumulating. It causes environmental problem after a while because large amount of it gets accumulated there. So EPR strategy, what it does is it then provides a methodology of looking at that particular piece of chocolate wrapper and treating it, and ensuring that the treatment has happened, has been noted properly, and has been acknowledged. So that's how this EPR process and policy framework is required. There are three main actors in this EPR process. One is producer, other is importer, and third is brand owner. and they are in short called as PIBOs, producer, importer, and brand owners. And EPR framework makes it mandatory for these PIBOs to ensure that the packaging or the product that it had produced, which is no longer in use now or has lost its use or application, that should be properly disposed. So the entire responsibility of doing that is left for the PIBOs to take it up. EPR has the primary aim to increase the amount and degree of product recovery. You know, we are all in the stage today where we want resource recovery to increase. We want to have circular economy in place rather than the linear economy and the exploitation of the natural resources that we have been doing to continue. So basically, EPR actually drives the adoption of sustainable practices and resource efficiency and contributes to the circular economy. What are the principles of EPR? EPR uses financial and technical incentives to encourage environmental friendly design and products. Let's take an example of a pen, ballpoint pen and a fountain pen. The ballpoint pen is not compliant to the EPR process because once you have utilized it, you just have to throw it into the environment. You can't do anything with it. But when you look at fountain pen, what gets utilized is only the ink part of it. The pen remains and gets utilized again. So fountain pen is a appropriately designed instrument as compared to a ballpoint pen. And the intent of the EPR is that we start designing more and more such particular products. Now it holds PIBOs responsible for the cost of managing the remains of the product after its use. It is based on principles that PIBOs have the greatest control over product design and marketing. And PIBOs have great ability and responsibility to reduce toxicity and waste. So in terms of designing, it is PIBOs who can really do the wonder and the required controls. And therefore, the EPR rests the responsibility onto them. This implementation process of EPR can be done by the PIBOs themselves, or they can appoint or delegate that responsibility to an agency which is called as Producer Responsibility Organization. In short, it is called as PRO. And PROs are paid by PIBOs for the end product or used product management. So PROs receive the money, and on behalf of PIBOs, they carry out their operations or responsibilities or actions to deal with the responsibilities. In a way, EPR facilitates the shift of the responsibility of waste management from government to the obliging PIBOs. So government doesn't have to really deal with this particular waste. It is actually to be managed by the PIBOs. And PIBOs are allowed to internalize the cost associated with this waste management, and therefore the prices may be slightly higher, but it actually helps in reducing the environmental impact. The advantages of PIBOs is that, it actually encourages PIBOs to design for recycling and make products last longer. Placing responsibility on PIBOs to dispose of their after-use products gives governments more freedom to create legislation which benefits sustainability with lesser cost and to both the parties. The more it gets utilized, the more people will start utilizing it. So even countries, there are many countries who have adopted it, and more countries are getting into this EPR regime over a period of time. There are a few disadvantages of EPR, and that's one is the technological advancement that we talk about. It tends to get slowed. For example, you look at mobile phone 20 years back, what it was, and mobile phone what it is today. There's a huge technological growth which has happened, but was it worth? We don't know. And if EPR processes are in place, probably this may not have happened in this particular timeline. So there could be disadvantages of that kind, which one has to be aware about. There are three models under EPR. One is fee-based, wherein the PIBOs are required to pay a certain defined sum to three entities. One is ULB, that is the municipalities who are collecting, transporting, segregating, etc. these waste. The second is to the agency which is hand assembling, recycling, or disposing this particular material. And the third is whoever is carrying out the information, education, and communication activities. So there is a methodology with which you define how much money has to be paid. So if you as a brand owner or as a producer give that money to these entities, then you are supposed to have obliged the requirements towards this EPR framework. Or there is another one which is called as plastic credit based model, wherein the credit certificates are issued against the management of verified quantum of the product. Suppose there's some material which comes to me, I'm managing this, I'm recycling it. So I look at how much I have done that, I issue a certificate. That certificate is then becomes a trading certificate in the marketplace. So more, if somebody has done more of the treatment than what he's obliged to, then he can sell those particular credits in the market. And the one who has done less, he can purchase them and then comply to the EPR regulation. Or there's the third one, which is called as deposit refund scheme. In this, a certain amount of deposit is retained in the price of the product while this product is sold to the consumer. So after the consumer has utilized that product, the remains, the after use quantum or that item, if it is brought back to the PIBOs, then that particular deposit is returned back. And that's called as deposit refund scheme. This, there are various machines also which have got developed to carry out this activity, and they are in operation today in different countries. So there are these three models based on which the EPR operates. And if you look at what are those products which are attracting the EPR globally today, the first is the packaging items, whether they are rigid or flexible. For example, the PET bottles, the Bisleri bottles that we drink, or the flexible packaging like the toothpaste tubes or the carry bags. Or it could be e-waste like our mobile phones or the refrigerators or whatever you call electronic items are there. Or it could be tires, or it could be end-of-life vehicles, because if they are not properly managed, they will remain in the environment causing environmental problem, as is obvious. And this EPR products, there could be mandatory processes, negotiated processes, or voluntary processes. Currently in India, we are in voluntary regime. The mandates or the directives or the negotiations are not there. The framework will be notified only then that particular process will come into play. And there are three programs. One is to reuse that particular material. Other is to recycle that material into another application, or to buy it back and then, go back for its remanufacture or whatever. So in terms of these particular processes, there is a lot that happens as far as the stakeholders are concerned. For example, when we look at the packaging materials, which from cement industry perspective is very, very important, they can be recyclable packaging material and they can be non-recyclable packaging material. If it's a recycling packaging material, then that material is through the rack pickers and through several agencies, it reaches the formal and informal sector where recycling happens. And when it comes to non-recyclable materials like MLPs, those materials are also again picked up through several stakeholder processes and then are delivered to the cement plant for co-processing. So there is a huge chain which operates in this particular process in complying to the EPR requirements. There are several requirements which are important from EPR point of view. The transparency, accountability, traceability, which I call it as TAC requirements. Now, these are something which have to be audited. and their processes have to be placed. So in fact, I'm working with the chartered accountant company to devise these particular processes for auditing and what kind of documentation should be in place so that the EPR compliance can be guaranteed. I don't want to get into details of these, but important aspect is that there is a big process which is required to be in place. Then only we can really achieve what we want. There are these three important elements which actually govern the EPR success: the PIBOs, the PROs or the waste management agencies, and the recyclers. So all of these three people, they have to be working in proper collaboration. Then the success of EPR is there. When it comes to cement industry, cement industry has very important role to play in successful implementation of this EPR processes. All the material which needs to be managed, which cannot be converted back into granules, can be handled by the cement plants and utilized as AFR. Now here, the cement industry has been playing a major role. A large amount of material cement industry is consuming and managing and ensuring that it happens in an appropriate way. In terms of the cement industry's role, cement industry can be a recycler by utilizing it as AFR, or it can also act as a PRO and work with the brands, with the PIBOs, so that their responsibility is fully shared by the cement plant to meet the obligations of the PIBOs. In terms of EPR challenges, trends, and options, first is the segregation is the requirement, in terms of the packaging material, so that appropriately segregated material is diverted for management. Earlier, it used to be the manual sorting processes. Now there are advanced machines which have come. And with these advanced machines, the segregation takes place. You can do it on optical, on color, on density, on basically robo-based, in terms of looking at the label, shape of the bottle, etc., etc. Now, why I'm saying this here is, if this starts happening, a large amount of plastic waste, which is EPR in the EPR regime, will not come to the cement plant at all. So what will come is non-plastic material. Today, a lot of non-recyclable plastic material comes to cement plants, but tomorrow, most likely it will not come. In terms of recycling also, a large amount of plastics today gets recycled. You never find Bisleri bottles or rigid plastic bottle, shampoo bottle, etc., coming to cement plants for disposal. Only MLPs and carry bags are the plastic materials which come for co-processing. But even those, the technology is coming to shift, to convert them into boards, which can be utilized for various applications. So therefore, the cement industry has to be aware that there are a lot of technological advancements which are happening, and EPR obligation is on them also, because they are also packaging their materials in plastic bags, and these plastic bags have to be taken back by them and managed, and appropriately the obligation has to be certified to the authorities. So in this case, I think there's a need for innovation as to how do we deliver the cement to the consumers without bringing in the packaging, plastic packaging concepts. I mean, the two important methods are the concrete and the paper bags, which are there, which are in operation for quite some time. But I think there's new trends which are required, innovation which is required, with which this thing needs to be done. And also, can we work to develop a technology to recycle back the plastics which we are sending it into the market? That means there has to be collection, and then there's a process by which we can do the recycling of that particular plastic. Now here, there were two questions which were asked to me by the organizer GCCF. The first question asked that cement is a localized business. This sector has got companies ranging from large pan-India players to single unit. What are the key risks and opportunities for the medium to small companies arising out of EPR legislation? So in terms of risks, I see that compliance to EPR regulation, this regulation or this compliance issue was not there in the cement industry at all. Now it will be there, and we have to be ready to deal with this compliance requirement. And this is very stringent. The second is taking back the used cement bags, in which we are packing and sending it into the marketplace. We have to put a process in place to do that. It's a risk. It's a process by which it has to be done. Otherwise, you will be non-compliant. Then the prices of RDF are likely to increase because of increased competition in the marketplace. And then the plastic availability in the RDF or otherwise in the waste is going to reduce because that's going to get recycled. So that is the risk. And in terms of opportunities, if we are able to utilize this particular material properly, then we have the opportunity of reducing the variable cost. We also have earnings from the PRO operations, from the PIBOs. There are large volumes that we can do for co-processing, and we may be able to produce more and more green cement as we start utilizing more and more of the EPR material. The second question was, EPR rules provide for environment, for social network, enterprise, and multi-stakeholder partnerships. We have seen very successful multi-stakeholder projects, and then such as Better Cotton Initiative. So do you see any similar project mushrooming from EPR regime, and should GCCA India explore such potential? So here I could think of two projects. One is the project one, where in BCCI, you're actually helping the farmers to improve the yield of the cotton, and then the price and the quality of that, is getting better. Now, cotton stems is one of the major cause of concern, in terms of getting proper utilization of that, because that is not a cattle feed material, but that can certainly be utilized as an AFR, as a fuel source, whether it is in power plant or cement plant. So there is a possibility that, that can be properly aggregated, and then it is properly processed into fuel material through pre-processing, and then utilized in the cement kilns or in the power plants that we have, so that, there's a complete circle. And this contributes to the BCCI, so farmer gets much more than just the that what is getting out of the cotton as a benefit and as a sustainable contribution to the society. In terms of the project 2, I'm saying beyond competition, because in competition, there are several initiatives which are happening today in EPR, where we have WeCare, we have Karosamba, where many brands are coming together to trying to work out strategies for EPR implementation. So for cement also, this may be required in terms of picking up the bags. So it's not that if I am Ambuja Cement, I collect only Ambuja bag. I can collect cement of Wonder Cement as well. So we need to put processes in place so that brand neutral packaging is brought back. Then this particular thing needs washing, proper cleaning. Then only we can recycle this material. The technology has to be put in place for that. So that recycling and manufacturing back again and putting back into the system, so that we don't allow the natural resources to get deployed, and then we continue utilizing this particular packaging for longer durations. So this particular activity can be done as a EPR derived project, wherein it can be a standalone, brand neutral, and a lot of brands coming together under GCCA and taking this particular initiative forward. So thank you very much for this.